You're listening to Sweetie's Happy Hour podcast, the show that brings you sweetness and more of happiness with your host, Sweetie! Throughout my life, I've heard the saying, everything happens for a reason. It's often said when something terrible has happened, and it's meant to be comforting. Sometimes it is said after something good has happened, as a way to tell that it's more than just a fate. But what exactly does the phrase mean? A few months ago, I asked someone what it's like to walk with someone who is going through a difficult season. I've been back and forth on this. I've read few blogs, I've prayed and asked for help. I asked my friends for their thoughts, and I'm not sure I have a total answer, but I can tell you what I've discovered while studying the meaning of this phrase. Everything happens for a reason. A band-aid. For a long time, I used the word as a band-aid in my own life, and it's my way to say that I'm uncomfortable, and I want to make sense of this. That's my way of saying I'm not sure where God is in all of this, but sooner or later, I think we'll know it one day. But it's just that I've been raised to believe that everything has a reason. Even some of my hardest heartbreaks, I've been told that I will realize it one day, that everything happens for a reason. This phrase has been painted on coffee cups and pasted into books that I'm reading. It's a common phrase, anything that seems to be helpful in order to help us sleep at night. But as I get older and see more unspeakable tragedies, horrific deaths, and real unending pain, I'm not sure whether I will keep on using this as a band-aid anymore. One more way to explain everything happens for a reason is everything is in perfect order. Whether it's a bad, death, achievements, actions, or something else. When I say everything happens for a reason, I'm talking to my understanding of connecting the dots and my love for my life. This is neither lofty nor a method that gives me to clarity. It's a thought that should be discussed, that it's just as it means, and if we think about it more, it says that all the decisions and steps you take for good or for learning were meant to happen. That idea you had that resulted in a certain outcome was meant to happen. The day you woke up and decided to create your own life with your own values, rules, and regulations was actually your living on your natural state of self within a moment in time, which was also supposed to happen for you. I'm not that very religious, agnostic, or atheist, but I believe in God's power, and that through our consciousness and belief systems, we can control our own destiny. I have faith in everything. Whether or not I have a belief, I will always respect someone else and do everything in my own way to support them and their opinions. What I can understand is the sudden death, neither accidents or random diseases. That is why life isn't a title for me. I exist from a form of life, and life continues to exist even though I'm dead, dead from my human body. Thus, whether we understand or see it or not, everything happens for a reason. Now prepare to hear some words of wisdom from some of the people I value the most, which I will be reading their insights about the phrase, everything happens for a reason. Let's get started with Miss Jezame Belusilio. Here's what she said. I personally believe that everything happens for a reason because we have the freedom to do things in our own comfort ways. But for every huge decision we make, there is a consequence. We can choose our path, but we don't have the control of everything. Everything happens for a reason because God knows what is better. He has a plan for each of us. He may not give everything that we want in our life, but He will certainly give us direction, protection, and love if we are to believe in Him. Now let's move on to my cousin, Miss Christine Ibabaw. Everything happens for a reason. This proverb became a mantra to multiple believers that they frequently quote this whenever an unprecedented or disappointing event happened to them. As for me, I believe most of these mantras are with biblical basis. In Proverbs 16 verse 4, King Solomon wrote, "The Lord made everything for a purpose, even the wicked for an evil day." Further in the book of Ecclesiastes, he said, "For everything there is a season and a time for every matter under heaven." Why do people of the old have said this? Because they figure out that the existence of every living and inanimate things was already predestined by the Creator. The fact that we were born in is already justified by a divine reason. We might not know it yet or will never know why, but it was God's reason. We have seasons of joy and laughter and seasons of pain and sadness. All this make our life story, but you know what's the most satisfactory story is? It is the story of surrendering everything that happens to us to God's sovereignty, whether we get the answer why it happened to us or not. On the other hand, Mr. John Paul Canoy said, "I believe that everything happens for a reason. One thing that I'm sure is that everything happens in our lives has a purpose and realizations. It may be a success or failure. Success defines the outcome of what we strive for, and failure is a realization for us to become better in the next chapter. Everything that we do is our fault. If we succeed, it is our fault. And also, if we failed, it is our fault." Sabi yan ni Kong. Everything happens for a reason means it has affiliation to the person, whether it is a good or bad. The main purpose of the statement is to realize something and appreciate the result of the outcome. And lastly, Miss June Marie Buenapes said, "It sounds cliche, but the question is, do we really believe that everything happens for a reason, all the time regardless of the situation?" To be honest, just like the other people, I am not consistent too in believing that everything that is happening to us has a reason. Lalo na sa mga pagkakataong mahirap maniwala. When the times are so frustrating and painful, it's so hard to believe na may reason bakit nangyayari yung certain situation sa atin. Why? Because people tend to look for the answer right away. Most of us, ang gusto natin nakikita yung buong picture agad, because if not, we become frustrated and most likely we fail to remember and believe that what happened to us has a reason. But every time that we are in the situation wherein we are bombarded of challenges in life, kahit mahirap, kahit hindi pa natin alam sa ngayon yung reason kung bakit nangyayari yung mga certain situations sa atin, let's always choose to remember what God says in His Word. There is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. We might not understand it yet, but let us all look forward for the time that we will say to ourselves na, kaya pala nangyari yun. Now I know. But for me, everything happens for a reason. I've said it too many times, and I've heard it said to me more times that I can count it anymore. And you know what makes the word complicated for me now, with years of my life? That every time someone told me that this complicated thing was happening for a reason, I felt this immense pressure to find out why, to seek out and to be consistent with it, so that I might retrieve the lesson and show it in people's faces and say, look, I now have the reason. It made me feel that if I look long enough, I will find the piece of wisdom, that I will find the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And maybe we won't. Maybe we'll never find out why. Perhaps there is no explanation for it. Would mean that God is more concerned with teaching us a lesson than with loving us through the pain of heartbreak. I believe we should still give meaning to the situations that happen to us, the things over which we have control, but a clear reason. Eventually, it will fall into place, but then just laugh at the frustrations and live in the moment. And remember that everything happens for a reason and always trust in God's hand. For you, does everything really happens for a reason? Be sure to tune in for my next episode here in Sweetie's Happy Hour podcast, the show that brings you sweetness and more of happiness. Again, with your host, Sweetie. Bye bye.